Hello, welcome to Rainbow Space Magic Con 2.0. This is the queer tabletop role-playing game panel. First, the person who is not here, Michael Williams, was going to talk, but he got his second Fauci ouchie and isn't feeling very well. And so I have a couple of things he wanted to mention that we'll bring up later. That takes us to either Tenacity or Ellis.
Sure, I can go. I'm Tenacity. I'm writing a book about depressed gays in college, in space also. But I'm kind of more of a baby writer in that I've got a couple short stories out and that's it. Yeah, I use Caesar and happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Ellis. I had a couple things published from like Storm and Press and Rooster and Pig before they closed under or as Griven, and then now most of the stuff I've been doing is I have a cat, sorry. Is getting some of that reprinted. So I have one of the Gun King anthologies from Storm and Press should be out in June.
I like how your cat is phasing in and out of your reality from what we can see.
That's excellent. My name's Heather O'Malley. I have a couple of books published on Amazon. One about a cultural anthropologist who finds a new tribe in the Amazon, and then all hell breaks loose as their entire world collapses around him. Lots of fun. Also, I have been gaming since 1978. D&D was barely a box set at that point when I got it. So I've been doing this a very long time, and I'm very happy to always talk about role-playing games. How about you two? How long have you been playing?
I had a weekly D&D group in high school, and I'm really into Monster Hearts lately, though I still play D&D every now and then. And then random other board games and tabletops, like as my friend group kind of like cycles through obsessions.
I also had actually an all-female D&D group when I was in high school many years ago. And since then, I've just never stopped playing RPGs. I've run some LARPs, I've run D&D, Pathfinder, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly run games. I've run D&D. Currently, I'm running a Hackmaster game, and I have been for about a year, at least this iteration. I've run other Hackmaster games. I tend to write these very epic storylines. Go figure, writers, let's make these storylines huge. But I always encourage, as much role play as possible because it makes it more fun. And it gives me, the game master, more things to torture players with. So that's my approach. So one of the breakdowns I'm seeing is in the last 10 or 15 years, there's been an outgrowth of tabletop RPGs that are geared more towards an LGBT audience, as opposed to people who are LGBT who have been at the table, like in my case, since '78. So, I mean, they're very different things. I mean, being gay and playing. Oh, here, let me move so you can see my cat. Got to share the kitties. But for a game that is more designed specifically for it, I mean, does it make it a better experience? What do you guys think?
I've noticed in D&D 5e at least that there is a lot of stuff written into at least the newer books about like, you can make your character any gender. Like, why would your character have like Western binary gender when they're like a dwarf or an elf? I don't know if that's a historical thing that they've always done, but I found that really cool because I guess, yeah, everybody who I played D&D with in high school was either gay at the time or came out later. And I definitely think that we flock to it.
Yeah, that's actually not something that they've done previously. Like originally, like way back, like TSR, who owned D&D, they were very anti-gay in their works, but D&D Fifth Ed has a lot of LGBTQ inclusiveness built into it, and some of the people developing it were trying to push for more diversity with that. Yeah, for me, I'm a fan of all role-playing games. Like any RPG can be queer friendly if you have enough queers around the table, which I usually do. So pretty much all of my games end up being of that bent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my games have always been queer friendly because, being queer, I've always been like, we're playing a role-playing game where you're like a dwarf or an elf or a halfling. And as you currently aren't a dwarf, elf, or halfling, you can just be whatever kind you want. Do whatever the hell you want with your character. And, some people are kind of nervous about that much freedom and are basically standard dwarf one each. And other people are like, I am going to be the most flamboyant goddamn dwarf on the planet. And, I'm like, okay, that's good. I like this. I had one person playing a male dwarf who would love to braid flowers in their beard because it was just funny. And, would occasionally start fights. And that was one of the things they wanted, was to start fights in bars. And so one would make fun of you got flowers in your beard, and then everyone fights. And I'm like, you guys ruined another perfectly good tavern. You're going to get a reputation. And they all thought that was the best idea.
Yeah, and maybe like that. Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that maybe that free-flowing storytelling mode is exactly why queer people are so drawn to it, because we can write ourselves in, like, perfectly easily.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Plus, it also allows you to explore, like, playing other genders, playing agender, playing a cat if you really feel like it. So it's a good way just to explore your own identity and figure out like who you are through role playing different characters.
Yeah, I mean, for me as a trans woman, for a long time, I was sitting there playing female characters and, hiding from myself why I felt better playing these characters than I did, doing anything else. And it is a huge freeing thing, and it can give you a way to play with lots of your identity without having to commit to anything in the real world. And that can be really liberating. So currently, like I said, I'm running Hackmaster, which is an outgrowth of first and second D&D. And the game designers and stuff are very LGBT friendly, and basically are like, it's your character, do whatever the hell you want with your character because it's yours. So if you want to make them whatever, then go ahead. Here's the parameters of the game. That's it. Those are the parameters. If we don't say it, you do what you want with it. And I really appreciate that kind of freedom when I'm running a game, because you can have any combination of whatever. Like we have a halfling in our game who's a thief, and she, every time they're in a city between missions, she's like, I'm going to go out and make some money whoring because I want to get some extra cash for drinking. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Why not? You're paid up with the guild. They're not going to give you any trouble. Go ahead. And so, she's actually able to charge more money now because she's a famous hero. And so people are like, paying extra gold to sleep with a hero of the realm. And I'm like, that's fucked up and awesome because it's someone being who they thought would be fun.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know what this says about me, but like I was running a Monster Hearts campaign a while back where basically it's kind of like Buffy, where like your characters in high school and you're each a different kind of monster, kind of like there's a hellmouth by your school possibly, and like somehow all of you have like managed to find your way there. And I played this like little like elf dude who lived in the forest, and he wore like trash bags as like his clothes, and like he looked like kind of like this kind of really dirty ball of newspapers with like a shopping bag as a hat and like little twig legs.
That sounds like so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can just do whatever. And I don't know what I was trying to work out with that even, but it was great. Hope my subconscious got it out or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, hell, that's one of the reasons I love writing, is to get stuff out of my head. Otherwise, it lives there rent-free forever.
100%.
We had someone ask a question about Pathfinder, which is it's basically like D&D 3.5, so it shoots off from D&D, and it is actually very LGBT inclusive because it was kind of designed that way and built by people who are part of the community.
Some of the first open writing in RPGs about trans characters, about gay characters as part of the texts that you would read in the books came from Pathfinder. I mean, so Pathfinder really did open things up a lot more for inclusivity in games. So I mean, while you have a lot of the standard games like D&D and stuff, which are LGBTQ friendly, depending on the table, Pathfinder was pretty much like, fuck your table. We're from the get-go, just accept it. And I know I've heard some people bitch about Pathfinder because it has, it has ability for your character to play a transgender half orc wizard. And I'm like, why not, man? Why not? That could be fun as hell. What are they doing? Running around finding a spell to give them gender confirmation spells?
Yeah, before Pathfinder, the main like big ones that had LGBT inclusiveness was the White Wolf products that started in around 1991. They came out of the sort of goth subculture, so they were kind of meant to be more subversive and
specifically first with Vampire the Masquerade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which all of their products, like Aberrant has queer superheroes. Vampire has a well-known vampire that's transgender. You have Changeling, which is fairies, so of course gender fluid.
Yeah, they've been really good with that, and I ran some a vampire LARP where I let people basically do whatever because the game was designed to let you do whatever. So it wasn't necessarily a factor of who's running the game, but a factor of just that's how it's built.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all have played anything by Buried Without Ceremony. They kind of make like pretty short PDFs of like different games where a lot of it is based on just like super, super minimal skeleton with queer kind of like being baked in. And then you kind of collaborate to like build everything together. Like there's no real GM, it's GM-less. So like it's kind of like decentralized world building kind of going around. It's good.
Oh, that could be fun. This takes us right to what Michael Williams, who's going to be on the panel. He wanted to mention two games specifically. One is Be Gay, Do Crimes, which is a reskin of the game Honey Heist. And basically, you run around and you're gay and you do crimes. One of the comments on the page is the best game about being gay and doing crimes that I've ever read.
So kind of like Untitled Goose Game, but like gay.
I guess, and it's a tabletop, game you can play. Then he also wanted to mention the game I Hunt. Oh, hashtag I Hunt, the RPG, and this is killing the monsters in the gig economy. In it, you play millennials scraping by paycheck to paycheck to make ends meet. A gig app called hashtag I Hunt offers them more money than they've ever made to hit the streets and kill vampires, werewolves, demons, and anything else that goes bump in the night. And it is, has a large presence of LGBTQ community aspects in it. Like some of the covers for the zines that go with it have, same-sex couples kissing, hugging, all sorts of stuff. So apparently it gives you lots and lots of opportunities to do every crazy thing you want while hunting monsters.
That's pretty sick. So when you say you just run around and be gay and do crime, is there like how like built out is the actual heist? Like how much does the GM put in and how much is like the book?
I do not know. I mean, I literally heard about this game today. I pulled it up and it's like all that's on this page that leads me to is this game was hacked from Honey Heist, written by Grant Howitt. Here's his Patreon. If you like the game and want to throw money someplace, please give it to an LGBTQ nonprofit. So it's basically, you can download the PDF for free. So, and then you can find out about what's in it. It's fairly short. The PDF is 135 kilobytes. So that is very brief. I have included a link in the chat, and let me include one. I Hunt can be found on Drive-Thru RPG, if people are familiar with that page. You can buy all sorts of fun and exciting small press games, but here is I Hunt, the RPG.
Yeah, I feel like the small press games are more or less newish, like probably more of them now because of the internet. Like I feel like the free PDFs that you get to download has been like pretty instrumental in, especially just when I was too young to buy a bunch of D&D books.
Yeah, and they basically they're aiming for a niche market to start with anyway. So they're like, okay, we're going to start with, we want this to be as inclusive as possible. So what about inclusive monster hunting? Yeah. Oh, gig economy. Yeah. And then you just kind of explode from there. And I believe it says I Hunt is built off of the Fate RPG system, which, yes, it's off the Fate core rules, which you don't need to play, but you can get the Fate core rule book set fairly inexpensively. I think I've seen a PDF for it for free. So
yeah, it has a free like quick play version.
Yeah, and that's a fairly simple way to get a game running. Fate is pretty simple. It's also not as rule heavy as other systems, because I know Hackmaster and D&D, some of these more classic ones have a lot of piddly little rules that I think can add some fun to things, but make other players really irritated.
It's a vibe. Like in my friend group in high school, like there was just one guy who had every single D&D book, and I don't even know where he got his parents to like spend all that money for, but like he just had every single one that was out, and we all had to like go over to his house and specifically only, beseech him to lend us something. He was like the D&D library guy. I don't think the rest of us like, yeah.
That could be fun. Yeah. What's your job? I'm the library guy for gaming books. Come to me, I will give you a book.
Yeah, he also bought the pizza for D&D nights.
Oh, hey. So
Yeah.
there's a person who should get a lot of, honor points for, thank you for being the pizza guy. Thank you for being the book guy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, one of
Real
the things
MVP.
I kind of dig in Hackmaster. They're like, if you bring sodas, you can get extra points for your honor points for your character because you've done something honorable for the table. And in one edition of the game, they had a pizza matrix. So if you had everyone submitted what they want for a pizza, and so you could build out this matrix and say, okay, the pizza we've all agreed to because it's off of the matrix, and you list this horrible abomination of a pizza, but people will eat it anyway. Or you're like, wow, okay, everyone just kind of agreed to the same 3 toppings. Well done.
That's cool. I'm gonna look that up actually.
Yeah,
Sounds useful.
Hackmaster is from kenzerandco.com, but they had a pizza matrix on their Game Master's screen that you could put up, and okay, what people want for pizza, you can fill that out. It was kind of a fun little thing. Anyone have any fun stories you have from the table where you had these really lovely LGBTQ role-playing moments?
I played like in a 3-year-long Dragon Blooded campaign, which is part of Exalted, which was one of the White Wolf properties that's very gay friendly. And I was actually playing a gay man in that one. It was interesting. We had a lot of fun, just with general interplayer dynamics. We had sort of a mixed group of a lesbian, some straight men, some straight women, all sorts of people just coming to the table, and cat in the face. Building stories of like just exploring different sexualities and different genders, and
Yeah, that's always fun. Tenacity, you have any fun table stories?
This is a friend's, but it's definitely really good. So she played like a part bat person in a D&D campaign, and they got to like a cave, and she was like decided to use her like echolocation to see what was in the cave, but she got a natural 1 on her roll. So basically what she did was her character just walked up to the cave, screamed into it for several seconds, and then just said like, I can't see anything.
That's good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I don't want to just lay out 10 in a row, so totally just like we can round robin this thing.
I had one where because my being trans, I was like, I want to include the girdle of sex change because it amuses me. Because as a trans person, I would knife someone for this as an actual artifact. So I thought, let's throw this in there. And so this one person, is kind of relaxed about most anything. He's like, okay, yeah. He's like, he's playing this paladin. He's like, oh, it looks like a girdle of storm giant strength. I could use that strength. Roar! He puts it on. He turns into a woman. He goes, not storm giant strength, but was like just moved on from there. It didn't change anything at all about how he played the character because he was like, what? I just now I'm female. Expect me to change? And I'm like, honestly, no. It just makes it funnier now. Some of these visuals of your, big, huge, hulking, person who you were, you're a little bit more petite. the armor had to be changed. It's like, it's fine. My God still believes in me, so I will smite thee. I'm just like, that's good.
Better God than the Christian one, am I right?
Yeah. Okay, Kathy Farrow wanted to ask, how are you all playing with your groups in the pandemic? So, Ellis, Tenacity, how are you guys doing it?
I had a Shadowrun group that we had been playing in person, and with the quarantine, we started playing over Discord actually. So there's a lot of like different chat bots you can work into Discord to do all like the dice rolling for you. And so like, especially if it's a role play heavy game, working off of Discord is just easy enough to just hop all in voice chat and go from there.
Tenacity?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there was D&D at the beginning for sure, and then there's been a lot of like video games, so like Civilization and TF2 today, which was like wild to play. Yeah, but like Discord, that was always the move. I actually played long distance with people across the country before the pandemic, so it was a pretty established routine.
Yeah, I mean, we've been running off of Discord since the beginning. I initially thought about using one of the tabletop RPG programs, but they struck me as kind of a pain in the ass to learn. I
Like
was like,
Roll20.
yeah, like you have to get all this fiddly stuff, and I know the people who are building the Hackmaster things for it to make it do the rolls correctly, because one of the rolls for critical hits is a D10,000, and that's kind of out there. But most I know the Discord bot we had is like D10,000 doesn't exist, and we're like, that's adorable. You think so?
Yeah, I did a campaign on Roll20 actually back in like 2017 because our GM was in California that year. It was maybe a bit more trouble than it was worth, but it was interesting, like because they had a pretty good detailed map kind of capacity, and you could take a little like cartoon character and have that be your little figurine, which was a fun element.
Yeah, if you're good at building the maps, at fleshing them out, at getting the character, little miniatures and stuff, it's really useful to use something like Roll20. Except, I've been gaming for so long without a lot of that stuff that, to me, it just seems like extra baggage that slows things down. So some of my players like, can we get maps, for this battle? I'm like, fine, let me sketch something really terrible. There, here you go. And they're like, ugh.
Yeah, Roll20 is good if you're doing like D&D and you're used to having like a grid map and minis and all that.
Yeah, if you're not used to them, then it almost gets in the way. Whereas Discord is just like theater to the mind. It's just, let your mind do the work. I also find that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm all, I did theater. Theater of the mind is a particular format of theater. I also know that White Wolf was like theater of the mind for a while, and people like, it's simple. Theater of the mind is everything happens in your head. I'm like, yeah, but it's a.
Sure.
I find it as a writer, it gives me great exercise in describing things quickly and detailedly. And so then when I get to writing, I'm like, oh, the cave looks like da da da, and I can describe these things very quickly. Whereas before I got better as a writer, I was like, it's it's not a 20 by 20 room because it's like a cave, but it's a 20 by 20 room, stone ceiling.
In like books, I feel like I can tell if an author has like done a lot of RPGs, because like certain objects will be described as like you can throw it maybe 6 feet. It's like specificity that like a player would want, And then like if you don't know what to look for, it's like, okay, I don't know why I need this information. But then if a D&D player reads it, it's like, okay.
Okay. I keep thinking of when I see that in stories, it's very much like Chekhov's gun, the whole idea of Chekhov's gun. When you see someone say, you can maybe throw it 6 feet, you're like, so someone's going to be throwing this very shortly, is what you're saying. And
Right.
sure enough,
or like just, yeah, to
a
let the
little while
players know
later.
like what they can do, like what their choices are, I guess, with like the objects. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of, I would say, potentially a negative bleed over from gaming. So I do think, especially playing with a lot of LGBT people who've been really trying to push what the games can do, I find that really gives me some very good ideas to expand my own work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that the same?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I feel like the collaboration really like brings in new cross-pollination to me. Like the questions someone else will ask will be like, just a really fun new way to think about things, and that'll like come with me from the table.
Ellis, how about you?
Yeah, I've definitely gotten inspiration from tabletop games. I've taken characters from games, not necessarily that I played, but just like that have been around the table and turned them into fictional characters for writing and all that. And also, RPG books are just a really good source for like looking up stuff about a fantasy background or a different anything you want to get ideas off of.
Yeah, because honestly, sometimes looking at just medieval history isn't quite right. I mean, because yeah, there's some excellent sources there, like Life in a Medieval Castle or Life in a Medieval Village, which gives you the very nitty gritty aspects of living in an actual medieval life. But fantasy elements change all that and do different things to it. And I think that's an important thing you can take, from your game and into your stories. Or, in games, it usually bleeds over from stories. Because, I mean, Gygax and Dave Arneson were very upfront with the fact that, we had to be very careful when we were naming things that we didn't absolutely just flat out steal from Tolkien.
Anyway, these guys are called halflings, and they're just, our creation.
Yes, they're not hobbits. Hobbits are very specific and they're owned by, Tolkien. These are halflings. They're half the height of humans. Yeah, yes, they're barefoot and have fuzzy toes. That's inconsequential. They're halflings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally.
And they took a lot of stuff from that Tolkien borrowed, trolls and elves and dwarves and stuff from various mythologies of their area.
Mm-hmm. I
Because
don't really know who Tolkien stole from, so I'm like unable to tell. Yeah.
I can rattle off that for a while, since I'm a bit of a Tolkien scholar amongst everything else I do. I mean, he took from Finnish lore. The names of the dwarves in The Hobbit and even Gandalf are actually from a list of one of the Eddas. There's a list of the dwarves in the order that he writes them.
Ooh.
Oin, Gloin, Biffer, Boffer, Bomber. It's like the exact thing, and I'm just like, that's funny.
The audacity.
Oh yeah, he's just like, what are they gonna do? Sue me? They're dead. The ancient Norse are dead. They're not gonna come after me. And he blatantly stole things from Anglo-Saxon literature, which he taught for the Rohirrim. I mean, the amount of stuff he just was like, I'm a pull from everywhere and put it in a blender.
Yeah.
And early tabletop RPGs very much reflected that. Pull everything in and give it a good pulse from the blender. And then you kind of had for a while, it was all, everything had to be kind of pulled together. And then you started getting people branching out into other games, into
Yeah, but
other,
I definitely see that like blender approach in like Monster Hearts, for instance, takes a lot of like teen drama tropes and like Teen Wolf, like Vampire Diaries kind of shit.
yeah. Kristen is right. The answer very much Tolkien being annoyed about the Birnam Wood prophecy in Shakespeare's Macbeth, literally being a bunch of dudes holding twigs and sticks up and going, "Look, we're sneaking across a field." No, the trees aren't coming closer. It's clearly people with sticks.
I believe Shakespeare stole that also.
Well, everyone steals. I mean, anyone
but
who
Shakespeare
thinks,
really stole.
oh yeah. I mean, anyone who's like, oh, so you write something original? I'm like, well, honestly, yes, but everybody steals. You can't help it. It's how the world is created. Okay, maybe the very first storyteller didn't steal. Unless they borrowed something, unless they were telling about Thog's accident tripping over a cat or something. And then, they told the story, but changed the name from Thog to Smog or something. It wasn't Thog. It was just.
There'd be like the base stories would be kind of out there, like legitimately like told regularly. Like Romeo and Juliet was a poem in like the 15th century. So then in the 17th century, Shakespeare was like, snatch, reboot.
Oh yeah, there was lots of different versions of the Tragic Prince, which became Hamlet, where you're out and about and your dad dies and your uncle married. I'm like, what is this, Greek drama?
Yeah. I mean, he stole that from the Lion King, of course.
Yes, he did steal flat out from the Lion King. I mean, it's so easy to see Mufasa and Scar in the characters in Hamlet.
Yep. I guess we've kind of wandered from the subject of RPGs specifically.
Well,
I'm not seeing a lot of other,
considering a lot of origins from tabletop, I mean, how the rules were built by initially by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson is they took a lot of what was popular gaming then, which was little miniature based combat where you would move a couple of inches, and Warhammer is an outgrowth of that type of battlefield simulation. And they were like, what if you actually got into the heads of these individual miniatures, and as you run them around, they're having the story told, and instead of fighting against the Germans or the Russians, they're fighting against trolls or dragons. And so a lot of it was, Tolkien was huge and it affected a lot. I mean, there's songs where people like flat out, yeah, I use stuff directly from the books to put in these songs. Led Zeppelin did it. I think Iron Maiden has a song or two that has direct reference to Tolkien. I mean, when you have a system, someone become that popular, and in the 60s, I mean, Tolkien exploded even larger than he did when it came out in the 50s, the mid 50s. And so that was a very big thing. And so these people, if you think about it, role playing is shared storytelling. We're all sitting around telling a story to each other. And so they just said, hey, we like these stories. Let's go out and make some rules, so when we have conflict, we can have these, we just roll dice instead of stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Maybe as far as like a question in lieu of one from the group, maybe like what do you think of like more minimalist versus the more maximalist rule-based role-playing of D&D? Like, what's your sweet spot?
I've played games that are are massively rule heavy, and I had to all but memorize hundreds of pages of tables to be able to run it effectively. I thought that was fun, but I also accept that I am a weirdo and I should not be used to measure anyone else's acceptance of things. But
Yeah,
I've also
I think
played,
D&D is sorry.
but I've also played, you know, Vampire LARP, where the biggest rules are rock, paper, scissors.
Mm.
So, I mean,
I think
oh,
D&D
it's a
is a
company.
testament. Sorry, it's a
No, you're
testament to
saying?
like D&D is a testament to like how much people are like willing to memorize tons of rules to play a fun game, and it's also a testament to how many people just like to memorize like massive amounts of rules. Chicken and egg, you know.
Well, I mean,
It
I
has
also
gotten simplified over the years, so D&D
True.
now
that's
is much nicer to play.
yeah. I mean, trying to calculate your to hit armor class 0, your THACO, in early games was an absolute pain in the ass, and you had to like it was nearly calculus level stuff. You know, okay, so how do we calculate for planetary drift affecting? And you're like, oh my god,
It's like, why do
THACO.
only nerds play this game?
Yeah, no. There is actually a gaming system out there called Rollmaster, and it is by far the most heinously rules-driven system on the planet. They would put out books, you know, fairly good-sized books, where it's nothing but blocks of you roll the dice to do this effect, you roll the dice to do this effect, and it's ever so slightly shifted because of, oh, if you're falling 10 feet, you roll on this table. If you fall 20 feet, you roll on this table. If you fall 30 feet, you roll. You're like, I just bought a book about falling. What the ever loving hell? So
Just like the
that
falling manual.
yes, and it's that system did not do well in the long run for various reasons. So yes, we have 10 minutes left. Any of our participants have any questions they have, or have we wandered across the field enough?
I also have some RPG systems I can recommend.
Oh yes, please, if you have systems you prefer, you know.
Well, mentioned in like the description, I'm sure romance readers are familiar with Jordan Hawk's series Widdershins, but now they're turning, well, there is a team turning that into an actual RPG system, and you can actually see they have a preview up for it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's actually looking pretty interesting. For those not familiar, Widdershins kind of mixes romance with the Lovecraft mythology. So lots of Cthulhu mythos stuff.
That's one way to be touched by a noodly appendage.
Yes. There we go. Copy and pasting wasn't working for me. In a similar vein, there was another new series, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, that was a Kickstarter recently, where you're playing as queer action romance. So, like, they're very inclusive, obviously from the title, but like whenever you do your initial character introduction, they specifically mention that you should, you know, say your character's pronouns. And it's most of the system, at least from what I've seen of the preview, is a lot of it is about building relationships between characters. So you have, and it also is similar to like the Fate system. So you have like mechanics for finally kiss in a dangerous situation, which like gets you a defense bonus for that scene of like you're stronger against whatever's attacking you because you had your first kiss with your whatever.
Your significant smother.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of games where you could easily make a much more slapstick comedy romance things like Teenagers from Outer Space was a really good one. Big Eyes, Small Mouth was another one that came out that was really kind of fun and
Yeah, that one's
demented.
anime based, so it was a
Very
good one to
anime
like
based.
just do whatever, play any character you want.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, that's always been my biggest takeaway from gaming is when the person who's running the table or the people who make up the table are open to anything. They don't care if you're playing, you know, a lesbian vampire from Cleveland, Ohio with a limp. They're like, oh, really? Now, why does your character limp? And that might be the only thing they ask about is your stupid limp. As opposed to you could even have a system which is built to be LGBTQ friendly, but if someone without, you know, but if the people who play are not really down with it, they'll even play against the system to get what they want. So it really is about the people you play with. I mean,
Right, and, like, the
tabletop
way-
play.
Yeah. The way you kind of like break the rules or like fuck with it in order to like get what you want out of it is also a really interesting part of gaming, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, we got 4 minutes. Is there any other games we want to pitch to people? I mean, finding Hackmaster or Pathfinder or D&D or many of the other larger systems out there is pretty simple. And it does cover the widest range of game ideas out there. Like Call of Cthulhu, they don't care what you are because you're going to go insane within a couple of sessions anyway. So just whatever.
Yeah, I've played Call of Cthulhu too. I was gonna mention that actually, but forgot because I got caught up in the concept of thirsty sword lesbians.
I like this idea of thirsty sword lesbians.
It looks really fun, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna check that link out. Okay, and if there's nothing else, I guess we can wrap up. Thank you to all the people who've come and listened. Thank you, Ellis. Thank you, Tenacity, for a fun and engaging panel.
And thanks for like moderating. Very appreciate it.
And thanks everyone for listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And remember, if you have questions for any of the panelists or stuff, feel free to continue this on the Discord, or just, you know, poke someone if you're like, oh, hey, you'd be a fun person to play with. You know, yeah. Try adding one of the speakers from the con to your game and see how sideways it gets.
Next year should just be like a really immersive, like an RPG panel. You know, you're role playing while you do the panel.
Oh, so yeah, it's just a game. So everyone just gets in there, and all the speakers are just running the game, and it's like forget the, you know, people asking questions, and the game master has to go build it into the game. That can be fun.
It's like the Adventure Zone plus Rainbow Space Magic.
I like that. That is a clever idea.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Talk to you later.